Center for Critical Thinking in Naples, Florida. For those who may be joining us for the first time, know that the Center for Critical Thinking, or CCT, exists to broaden critical thinking through open-minded discussion of relevant issues and to empower people to become rational thinkers and self-directed learners. Let me mention to you that CCT has produced numerous webinars and hosted dozens and dozens of dinner discussions and library presentations around town since the organization was established over 14 years ago. In fact, there were over 50 presentations in 2019 alone. It's mighty impressive however you cut it, so please spread the word. My name is Elaine Reed, and I am a member of the CCT Board of Directors and also your moderator for today's virtual presentation titled COVID's Impact on Our Public Schools. This is another critically important subject, and we are privileged to have Dr. Kamala Patton, the Superintendent for Collier County Public Schools, with us today, Thursday, April 29th, 2021. I'm pleased to share with you that Dr. Patton is a very fine friend of mine as well. Before we begin, I'd like to review a few operating procedures. This webinar is recorded for future learning. It will soon be posted on the CCT website. We expect that there will be many questions from the participating audience. We'll do our best to address all of them in the available time frame. Please click on your Zoom video Q&A button or the chat button. Write your question and I will present it to our respected guest at the end of the presentation. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected everyone and everything, creating vast implications for each of us, and it has certainly impacted our public schools as well. Fear of the viral beast in February and March of 2020, to school closures in the spring of last year, to thoughtful and rapid responses made in the following months to keep our children learning and thriving. That is the epicenter of today's presentation. Earlier this year, CCT hosted a webinar on COVID's impacts on higher education, and we heard from the Florida Gulf Coast University president, Dr. Mike Martin. He commented that the institution did not expect or project well enough how long the virus would impact the university and its many events, including their graduation ceremony. How could he possibly know? How in the world did Dr. Patton assess, plan, and manage such a vast district, one that includes 54,000 students, teachers, and administrative staff? We'll learn about this and more right now. Before you begin your presentation, Dr. Patton, please introduce yourself to our webinar participants and share your general role and responsibilities, and then please start immediately with your program, and then we will have questions and answers when you're finished. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Great. So thank you, and thank you for inviting me here today. A very impressive group of folks that are on the virtual meeting here today. So as Elaine said, we are great friends, very pleased to have gotten to know her and her son that graduated from Collier County Public Schools. So I became the superintendent here in Collier County. And again, Florida goes by county districts. So 67 counties, 67 superintendents in Florida. So I began June 1st of 2011. So it's hard to think 10 years have gone by like this, but they've been really wonderful years. So lots of programming. So what I wanted to do today was do two things. One, give you a little bit of information about Collier County Public Schools, and then talk more about what happened during these pandemic times and what continues to happen during these times. So with that, let me just pull up the PowerPoint real quickly here. And again, very pleased to be with you today and know that this is what we call our infographic. So as you can see here, just some basic information. One key factor in the top left corner there, we're 2,300 square miles. So the whole state of Delaware fits right here in Collier County Public Schools. Some interesting information. Again, you can see there are actually 14,000 public school districts in the United States. We're the 115th largest district. So sometimes we lose sight of that here. I don't, but others do, because we have the big powerhouses like Miami-Dade, fourth largest, and many others. But 115th out of 14,000 is still a very large district. So you can see how many employees we have. Just under 7,000. We're the largest employers here. We're actually the largest restaurant when you see how many meals we serve every year. And we do not get the opportunity, though, to be able to just serve within a certain window like a restaurant does. So just looking at who's actually in our schools, because we always refer to Collier, not Naples. People have a set mind about who lives in Naples, and there's a lot of wealth in Naples in certain areas, but who's in our public schools, you can see in the last decade, we've actually decreased the white student population, and that same increase is seen almost in the Hispanic population, and our Black populations remained about the same. The free and reduced lunch population, you can see, has increased to 65% from that non-free and reduced lunch just one decade ago. You can also see the number of languages and the students, most importantly, that come from non-English speaking homes at 55%. And then on top of it, you can see just our number of 96 languages and dialects. So what our folks are doing is really working with some challenges, because we don't have the population of parents that they do want to help their kids, but may not be speaking that language to be able to help. So we've worked very proudly to try and make sure that we are an A, and that we are. You can see that only 36% of the 67 districts are an A, and that only 11 of those districts, 16% of that, have been an A for now 4 years. We've worked hard in the middle of the pack 10 years ago at 33rd of 67 counties, risen to as high as third, now tied for fifth, but we'll get back to that third, but working very diligently to ensure that our academics continues that upward mobility. You can see that we are outperforming the state at 95% of our students taking those tests. And that's been a big needle to move from just 30% 10 years ago. This is the screen I want to just stay focused on for a second, because this would be our signature achievement, in my opinion, and one that we worked very hard on right when I walked in here 10 years ago. Because look at where we're at now at 92.9% graduation rate, but we were just 10 years ago at 72.5. So more than 1 out of 4 students were not graduating. To me, unacceptable. Not for our community, and knowing what that is an economic driver and everything else. So we've driven our percentage of points up 19.7 percentage points. And actually that's only in 8 years, because the data is always a 1-year lag data. And obviously we did not have the state testing a year ago. But equally as important is that overall rate, as both our migrant students that, as you can see, have risen to 88.9, almost 89% from 53% in these 10 years. And the same is seen in our students with disability, now sitting at 83.5 percentage points. So the migrant students, important to note that of the 67 counties, we have the largest number of migrant students, about 3,200 migrant students. There are 16 of the 67 districts that do not even have 3,200 kids in them, let alone migrant students. So very proud of that work. We continue to work on a strategic plan. So these are our 3 areas of our focus of academics, culture, and leadership. And then with this strategic plan, we came up with a tagline: college, career, and life ready skills. So we're excited about our work and our continued work, even during COVID times, on our strategic plan. We have not built a new school. In 2023, we will open our next new school. It will have been 17 years since we've opened a new school. So that new school will have about 2,000 high school students at it. We label it GGG until we go along to the process this next year and actually give it a name. But most importantly, what you can see in the right side of the screen is we had purchased that land 18 years ago. And our other point of pride, as bulleted on this screen, is to say that we intend to still be on track despite COVID to be debt free in 6 years. That includes paying cash for this $97 million school that ordinarily we would have our taxpayers paying about $42 million interest fees on that new school, that we can then plow that 42 million into saving for a new school. So very proud of our fiscal work here. Also, our NAF Academy students, and we're very, again, proud of what the work we've been doing with our NAF Academies. You can see the various academies that we have throughout our high schools. Engineering crosses all of our high schools, and subsequently now have it in all 10 of our middle schools. So really thrilled about that opportunity. And you can see National Distinguished Programs. Part of this is our work-based learning experiences that actually have 10 different activities students need to do that can also culminate in an internship that are still happening, again, in a pandemic world. Part of this also is the college and career readiness, and those are industry certifications. So to be sure that you understand the industry certification, and let's just use Microsoft Suite, which would have Microsoft Office, Excel, all of those Word. So that student in Collier County would be taking that same exact test as a student in California. They are national exams. So always thrilled that we can have kids college, career, life ready. Along with our engineering is another flagship program, and that's our entrepreneurship program, where again, a tagline of actualizing the American dream. These entrepreneurship programs are now not only in our 7 high schools, but also all 10 middle schools. So we really believe in equity and making sure that we provide opportunities for students in all of our schools. So here you can see we can only do this with community support of coaches and mentors, and literally like on what you see in the Shark Tank shows and all of that, we end up with a start, lean up start model. The kids then have mid-year pitches, and then have a invitation that they come to our district competitions for the high school, and middle schools have their own market days. So very excited. You can see the classrooms don't look like normal classrooms, nor are they labeled classroom. They're actually labeled an innovation lab. So really thrilled. Each of the schools picked their large word for their wall, and then it's by their school colors. And that picture on the bottom on the left-hand side, that big bright green room, every room was picked subsequently with a closet that we were able to convert into a think tank, because it gets very loud when you have coaches and mentors and everybody talking in the same space. From there, we also then have now made an effort for 5 years to take our 7th graders to Florida Gulf Coast University. Why there and not FSW that's located right in Collier is because they have dorms. So we wanted to be sure that with a district that has 65% of Title I students, that we want to be sure that kids have seen themselves and see firsthand what a college or university looks like. So they actually have an opportunity to walk through several of the colleges, go through the dorm. Our kids ask questions like, when do the bells ring? So just because many of their parents have not gone to college and university, so when a kid has the opportunity to be somewhere, they can see themselves somewhere. So always thrilled at that. We put them in bright green shirts, and although the kids wear these, we've seen them even in our hurricane shelters in their 7th grade college and career readiness shirts. But we put them in bright green, so when they're on the campus, we don't lose them and we can spot them if they're away. So interestingly, also that we have 70% of our kids that go to colleges and universities. So what about that other 30%? We know not every student needs to go to college and university. So we're happy with our 30%, but we need them having a career. We need electricians, cosmetologists, phlebotomists, many vet techs around town. So many of our students that are not going to college and universities. We take them now in 12th grade selectively over to our two technical colleges, Lorenzo Walker or iTech out in Immokalee. So we want to be sure that they see this. We hear the same thing. We didn't know these schools exist. We did not know they have financial aid. So we're working hard that, again, kids have a career, not a job. So next year, we're very excited is that we've had this in our strategic plan and finally getting to implement it. So we're working for time for dedicated social emotional learning and life ready skills. So next year, 6th through 12th grade, we'll pare down classes a couple minutes on Tuesday and Thursday and have a 35-minute window of time working on this. And in the elementary, X number of minutes on Tuesday and Thursday also. So we're very excited about this. The middle school students will be assigned a teacher in 6th grade, and they'll keep that same teacher all the way through 8th grade and same 9th through 12th. So very excited, certainly in a year where kids are coming back, even if they've been with us since August, they've been in mass, they've sat 6 feet apart at lunch, and a whole host of other things you'll see in a minute. So it's certainly the right year to launch this initiative. So loving all the success of our kids. Each year, now not this year, we'll put this on pause as we did last year, but we have our seniors do graduation walks. So you can see they go back to their elementary schools and now middle schools, and the smiles, and if you really need a day to have a good round of tears coming, this is it. To watch the kids see their former teachers, teachers recognize the kids, the siblings, to look up to their brothers and sisters, always a great day. So in addition to athletic signing days, we have academic signing days, and these would be the kids that get the full ride scholarship. So we're very excited to showcase not just athletic full rides, but also academic signing days. And then we've moved to now career signing days for our students that are leaving us from high school and beginning a career. So this year, we know what we'll be doing is also putting our students that are in the military into career signing days, because that is a career that they'll be immediately embarking on. So let's go back to the spring exactly a year ago and what happened with COVID. So again, 67 districts, 4 of us were on spring break and never came back. That meant our kids went home, had no idea they would never be coming back to school last spring. That meant their books were at school. That meant their instruments for band were at school, many different materials they needed. So that was already an interesting moment just to figure out how to get them back safely to even pick up what they had. We also then had to quickly pivot to e-learns and get all of our laptops out of our school, get them re-imaged and back into our kids' hands. And not only that, make sure that we provided hotspots for our students. So what were some of those things we did? We made sure to try and make the year to finish as strong as we could for our seniors. So we gave every senior an opportunity to come in, take a picture with their gowns on, with their hats on, make sure they also had the famous picture with the flags behind them and their principal. We made sure that we purchased a sign for every one of our students to be able to have in their yard and really advertise and hope that their neighborhoods were still able to give the kids a shout out. So we're still doing yard signs again this year. And people said, but they're able to graduate because we did virtual graduations. I said, but they have not had a junior prom. They have not had a senior prom. Very few of them were able to go to any football games or athletic events or many of the different things they had historically been able to do. What we are proud about is that when we open schools, our thought was to open schools and keep them open. So all the different things that we did and put in place to be sure we didn't open them and then shut them and have to send a classroom or send home a wing or close a whole school. So a lot of thought went into that. These were our models that we offered at the beginning of this year. Again, on-campus learning, the traditional way of learning with the teacher in the classroom. Classroom Connect will be a little bit what we're doing right now, and we call that synchronous learning. So I'm the teacher, you're the students at home, but you see me and we're able to interact. That was Classroom Connect. eCollier Academy, new for us, and we'll continue that moving forward. A lot of silver linings from COVID. So in this case, it would be the students that They just checked in once a day to see what their work was, and they might have done their assignments at 10 at night, at 6 in the morning. They might have worked on it from 1 to 3 and taken a break. And then we also had the opportunity for people to be in home education. So this is always interesting to us. Like, what was our percentages when we started school this year? So when we started school this year, you can see we were at 60% in person. Then at the end of the first marking period, which was the end of October, we were actually at 77%. And right now, this statistic was as of January, but right now we sit at 90% of our students back. We are absolutely thrilled with that. When you saw our statistic at 55% of our kids coming from non-English speaking homes, our parents want to help their kids. They do not know how. They don't even speak the same language. So we were really thrilled and worked very diligently in December and January, phone call after phone call, meeting after meeting, to tell those parents, we need your kids back with us in person. So this is a stat I'm also proud of. Right now, the nation sits at 39% of students are back Monday through Friday full time. Our state of Florida average sits at 65%, and we sit at 90. So always going to be thrilled and grateful for all the people that helped us get our kids back. So we provided masks, as you can see on the left-hand side. These were our original masks that we had. And the second half of the year, in January, we decided to buy another mask for our students, all washable. And then we actually, by then, allowed our seniors, a whole set of them, to figure out which mask do you think we should provide, and always meaning that the green were for students, blue were for our staff. We have lots and lots of infographics that we just have a very talented young lady on our staff that are able to put our thoughts into pictures. Kids know pictures well. So you can see many different posters that are throughout our building. We then also purchased stickers so that kids would know where to stand, where to sit. Very, very graphic oriented. I think that was the right thing to do when we've asked students. They felt very good from day one about where to go, where to line up. So here's just a graphic that you can see where we wanted to ensure as much social distancing as possible. So this on the left would be someone walking into a front office, all labeled where a parent could stand or a student could stand. And in the next picture, what you can see is certainly our music rooms. And that was a really great school. And what they did is they literally X'd out the box and put the X where the students sat. And then again, what we did on all of our staircases going up and down, we labeled them either with an arrow up, or like in this case, these were marked red X's so that people would know, don't go up these stairs, these are going down the steps. So here's a snapshot into our schools, and our snapshot into our schools show at seating at lunchroom. To me, the most vulnerable time, the kids had their masks off. So here we even took advantage of individual seats, spacing out students. And then you can see in the second picture on the left, we literally put stickers right where the 6 feet are. So we didn't try and ask kids, because otherwise they kind of gravitate toward each other. So this allowed them to see, ooh, my little rear end's not on a sticker. So these are our testing desks in the third picture, that when we go to take our tests and to spread out students for testing, we use them for lunchrooms. And then again, you can also see then in a hallway in our high schools, how do we all these people in the lunchrooms? We literally put dots along the walls and put a chair right under it so we could have kids still being able to sit outdoors during their lunchtime. So one of the big parts that we've been working on for quite a while now is equity. Equity, ensuring what is it that people need. Some people need more than others. That came into play for us when it came to hotspots, right? So even though we gave kids a computer at the beginning of this current school year, every child had a computer. Some did not have internet access at home. So we had to find out who needed that internet access. We actually knew it from the spring, and we were able to quickly get that hotspot then for the family, not just the device, right into the students' hands. So one of the things I'm the most proud about, though, of this particular year are the activities that we maintain for our students. So we have football go on, basketball go on, currently baseball. We even had theater go on. So if you look closely, this is Joseph in the Technical Dreamcoat of Colors, and all of our students had their masks on. They had their microphone on their mask. They were able to still perform. And if you could see to the right, that's not in the pictures, there is our students, there are our students, and they're all performing in the orchestra. They accompany the theater students. That middle picture on the, or toward the right bottom, that is to show you how we still had social distancing for parents. So we had to have more performances, but we also live streamed all of our football games, all of our basketball games, everything else. Actually helped our local economy because the people knew that some of our local restaurants or bar areas featured then our streaming, not just NAACP, NCAA or NBA games. They also were able to stream our high school programming. So really thrilled for that. Here's some more of our activities still going on. You can see here our swimming that still maintained, our students in the bands in the crowds, you can see with their symbols, all with their masks on. So just a lot of different ways that we were able to engage students, because as I say and we say, generally this Friday as in tomorrow, I have all my senior roundtables. Never once in 10 years has a student said to me, I loved high school because I loved Algebra 1 and what we did in Algebra 1. What they always talk about are those engagements. It's a teacher, it's all those different programming. So we were thrilled to be able to offer that. So again, on campus, Classroom Connect, supporting teachers in just a variety of ways. Again, you can see all of our students with their desks fully separated apart, mitigating learning loss and balancing rigor and understanding, because what did happen is once we went to so much online learning, we kind of forget in a 48-minute period, we still take attendance. When they move to do their chemistry lab, they still lose a minute or two moving there. So we tended to pile it on. So we needed to say, we need to take a breath and make sure that what that work is for our kids is the sufficient amount of work. Needed to build in mental health needs for students. And boy, do they need that. So did our adults. When we looked at accelerating our students, we were really thrilled too, though, that we had the ability to have Canvas. Canvas is our learning management system. And why we're proud of this is that fully 2 full years ago, so really 3 years ago, we actually purchased Canvas and we're working on getting it implemented. This just expedited it. Same with one-to-one devices. This expedited our one-to-one devices, but Canvas is used by 95% of colleges and universities. So our students will have a leg up as they begin with there. So we were included in multiple research and professional cadres on a state and national level, all during this time. Because of our approach to teaching and learning, we were able to have much more synergy with our community organization through things like Future Ready Collier. There you can see we could instantly have over 120 of our community partners right there with us. I even, since a year ago in March, Thursday night, always have an 8 o'clock appointment with the superintendent outside of Chicago and one in California. So that helped me keep in check. So it's still amazing to me to listen to them just 5 weeks ago. Well, we're getting our students back. That is so passe to me, getting our students back. We're now on to what are we doing about graduations? So that continued teaching and learning, we looked and made sure to concentrate during these time on what are those silver linings. So for us, it's really been able to have more student learning in different ways. Now, if a student's absent, they can actually keep up with their work if they had to go home for contact tracing, which, by the way, we are thrilled that it's only 10 days instead of 14 days finally. Very, very tough to call that parent and say, I'm sorry, your child was contact traced. Many of them had to stop work to stay home with their kids, depending on their ages. Knowing that we have the ability now to do more professional learning with our teachers in many different ways. Thrilled that I think we're going to pick up 2 virtual learning days. Just had a conversation with our legislative liaisons last night at 9:30, hearing that our 2 days might have now been able to get included in a bill that would pass through. Also, because we have all of our students with their own computer, we take advantage of their screens. So these are some of the different social emotional learning aspects that we've done. So like you can see here, kindness matters, be kind, expect kindness, be the change. So lots of different ways that we were able to continue sending positive messages to our kids. So sure, did we have challenges? You bet. You can see just where do you put 14,000 computers as you're trying to re-image them? So we used even our school boardroom. You can see them stacked up there. Lunches and food. So with 65% free and reduced lunch, if any of our parents count on us for that food. So we quickly figured out what we would do is if you came for breakfast, we would also give you lunch. If you came for lunch, we gave you tomorrow's breakfast to try and not make them have to come so many times. But right away, running out of bags to put the food in. Not that the food was the issue. Where do you think you have that many bags instantly? So again, great community partners so we could find our sources for the bags, pitched in, gave us theirs, getting hand sanitizer, disinfectant, all of these kind of things. But really for us, one of the great things was because we knew we were coming back to school and we were absolutely not changing our way of, well, we'll just start virtually. We were able to get a jump on all those things that we needed. So went ahead with lots and lots of different activities. You can see here's our Seagate Elementary where the principal and the assistant principal sent out their building bright futures together. But you can see they had their little mask. Their later version had their seahorse with his little mask. So again, silver linings, the ability to move to one-to-one technology faster than what we planned. Usually right now we'd have parents starting to register for school, no matter how many times we say, come early, that last week before school, they stand out in that hot sun. We now have moved fully online to our student registrations. Kids will always be more conscious of washing their hands, their personal hygiene, just even recruitment, our virtual recruiting, instead of just sending people out to the colleges and university. By virtual recruitment, we're able to capture many more people to come down and be a part of our team. Our nutritional services, they continue to do incredible work. So while people were off, our food and nutrition services still, you can see in the third grouping, had 17,000 meals that were served over holiday breaks. Over 150,000 weekend meals that we sent home with students, lots and lots that we did. So when I look at other districts, even much larger than us, thrilled that we had 28 sites that were able to be sites where parents could come. But then we took our vans, our little food vans, we took them in the neighborhoods way in the back. Once we built up a customer base there, we then took a bus in to get them their food. So that's what you see here. We're mobile feeding devices because we get it. You can't learn if you are hungry. So making sure that our kids stayed fed was very big part of our world. And of course, our technology, just thrilled to know what we've done and to just advance that entire work. So if you looked overwhelmed when you look at these pictures, you should be, so were we. Very system, we are a system of systems, but inventing those systems because there is no playbook that says, here's COVID-19, pull it off the shelf. By the way, what do? We have that for hurricanes. We have that for many things, but not for pandemics. So very important that parents were great, lined up, just one after another, getting them that technology. Again, just so you can have a snapshot into what did it take for us to get computers into kids' hands and then make sure they had internet. So lots of virtual meetings, as they say, the Brady Bunch squares. And really, that was the first virtual meeting when you look at the Brady Bunch squares. But again, lots of ways for us to connect to our schools when we couldn't be together, to not have principal meetings, to not be able to get all of our third grade teachers together, but we could connect them up for all of their professional learning. So lots of ways we did this. So we were already a system that used audio enhancement microphones, but if you want to believe it or not, we were thrilled that we were already there. We had just upgraded to the newest version because try talking through a mask. Very difficult. Little kids trying to learn and they listen and learn, can't see their mouths. So that idea to amplify the teacher's voice for them to not go home as tired, having that voice enhancement microphone makes all the world of a difference. Very few districts have all of that. We're thrilled we already had it, already had people using it, but obviously even more people use that. So ways for us to still stay connected, very important, is that once it hit last year in the pandemic times, and we instantly had to shut down, for those last 7 weeks of school, then every Monday morning I did a superintendent video that went to our employees, just a short video to keep in touch, because we can email you. And that's always another great way to communicate. But this way we were able to talk to them, let them see pictures. I'm not a morning person. I'm good to have a meeting at 1, 2 in the morning. So for me, it was just about a killer to get up and make sure I was there. But that was important, that I think they could see you being the cheerleader to keep everybody going. Got lots and lots of notes from folks thanking us for the videos, and just knowing that we needed to do this. It's still amazing to me to hear people, like I just spoke to someone a week ago, they just went back to work for the first time. I've been away from work 2 days. Other than that, I've been in work. So it's very, so I kind of joke with people, please don't tell me about another home project you got done. That's not even an opportunity in my lifetime to get a home project done during COVID times. But we've got to be very good at WebExing, which is similar to what you're doing now with Zoom, making sure that we had incredible, not good, but incredible virtual graduations. More thrilled this year, we will graduate our kids in person. The main arenas that we use, they could not guarantee us to be able to use them. So by January, we had to make that decision to step forward. So May 29th, our original date, all of our 7 comprehensive high schools and our 1 technical school will all graduate same day on their football fields at 9 a.m. So getting and ensuring that we can stream all of those, again, an incredible technology department, working with our maintenance departments, and a week from now, the principals, the people that read the names, seniors that are speaking, everybody will practice. Very different to talk out in the stadium with a microphone than indoors. So looking forward to those graduations. People are like, well, what if it rains? I said, well, that's why we're doing it at 9 in the morning. And much like a Friday night football game, if it rains, a Thorguard goes off. We have to hold for 30 minutes past that Thorguard. People will wait in their cars. Kids will be housed in the school. But we are absolutely going to graduate kids in person. They'll have their full regalia on. They'll have taken a picture during the week. So if they have their shorts and t-shirts on, we don't mind. But they'll get a new little graduate mask to wear that day. And it'll still be a great day. Our communications department, we are thrilled that we just have an incredibly talented team. We were actually happy to be able to represent our county. Easier to say that now, a little shaky back then, that the NBC Nightly News, that has an audience of 6 million people, chose to come here and help us show them what are the challenges the school districts are having and how do we think we're solving them. The good thing is what we said did work. Nothing like going out there with 6 million people wondering what we said, is it right? So it did work out well, that they actually, they were so nice. They came back again in August to say, how did it go? What are you doing at this stage? So really thrilled to have had that. Personally, it was kind of crazy. I didn't realize how many people I know watch the nightly news outside of Collier. So I heard from people from college, back from my high school, that are all around the US. Hey, we saw you on the news. One of the people I worked with actually said she was cooking in her kitchen and she thought she heard my voice, which I know is kind of that Midwest talk. She went out and she said, I saw you on the TV. So just that was a little bit of fun, but grateful that they were able to still help us. So many things that we remained with our communication, our opening of schools meeting that we normally had in person, a fabulous 50-minute video that we were able to put together. Still have our partners come. Our STEAM conference, if you have kids, grandkids, it's still posted online. Phenomenal opportunities that we were able to have to keep things moving for our kids. So with that, Elaine, I'm happy to take any questions and hope I can answer some questions that someone may have.
Well, there's no doubt there'll be questions. Your presentation was absolutely outstanding, really outstanding. Yes, my son is a graduate of Florida, of Gulf Coast High School, and while I was aware of of the demographics and the rest of the material that you had shared. I had no idea how extensive it was. And then putting into that the challenge of managing through COVID, I take my hat off to you yet again. So while everyone is grabbing their getting ready for their questions, I have a question to start this off, and I'm going to ask you to minimize your screen or remove from screen so I can access the chats. But in the meantime, while your tech is doing that, if you would compare and contrast virtual learning to in-class learning and their impacts.
So I think the simple answer to that is students as a whole are not made to learn from home. Teachers as a whole are not made to try and teach 13 kids in person and try and juggle 11 kids that are fading from their screen, not sitting up, stop out for a bathroom. You can control all that in a room. So we saw, like other people across the nation, more D's and F's with our students, especially that first semester. Even though we tried to be lenient, there's a point though we need to see some work. So that's why for us, we're not trying to talk about other districts, but for us, we wanted our kids back in person because we already know how hard it is to learn in these times, but at least we had a better shot at helping them when we saw them in person. And again, it still wasn't perfect because every time a student is contact traced, that 6 feet around them for 15 minutes, and then the ruling changed 6 feet around someone cumulatively for 15 minutes in the day instead of just at one sitting. Talk about just trying to keep track of that was an issue. So really and truly, we know that it is far better. And then when you look around the United States, people that did not have access to get computers in students' hands, just learning didn't occur, or learned as best as they could, or off a cell phone. And so really the idea is we're still people that interacting with people is still, as a whole, the very best. For some, it can be the other way, but as a whole, it's still better in person.
Wonderful. All right, a question from an audience participant. Why such an increase in students with disabilities? Is it better diagnostics, or is it migrant students that arrive with more learning disabilities?
So that was actually, so I might have said that wrong, so let me make sure you get that. That was the graduation rate of students with disabilities. So we used to graduate them at around 53%. Now we're graduating them at 86%. So it's not an increase in the number of students, it's the kids that are identified as students with disabilities, somewhere around 13% of our population, that they're doing so well that that percentage now has just shot up there of how many have graduated. Same with migrants. So when we only had 51, 52% kids graduating from migrants, and to be right around 89%, they're game changers. That means their siblings know they can graduate. And just real quick then, Elaine, too, when a student has a high school diploma, it's a national statistic from the chamber, not ours. They earn $10,000 more a year. So that in 5 years is $50,000. Over a 30-year career is $500,000. But more importantly, it gets you into military. It opens the door for technical educations. So this is game changing when we can get our students with disabilities to have a high school diploma, and also our migrant students. So thanks for asking that question, whoever did, just to be sure we could clarify that.
Wonderful. All right, another question. How can we retrieve monies for the Collier County Public Schools that are lost to vouchers?
So you can't really retrieve it, but what you can do is we can keep trying to ensure that we're offering not just an A-rated district, but programming. And that's what we're proud of. It's not just the fact that we're escalating in our academics, but that we're offering things like the Cambridge program. So we're the only of the 14,000 districts in the United States that offer that Cambridge program in all the elementaries, all the middle, all the high schools. So trying to find avenues to want to have people keep their kids in our public schools. So it's competition, right? So that's why we believe we want to keep stepping up our game, finding more opportunities, whether it's engineering and entrepreneurship, whether it's a marching band that's been to the Macy's parade, that's been in the inauguration parade, really showcasing our kids and making sure that we keep providing opportunities so that more will continue to choose to stay in the public world.
Wonderful. Similarly, how did your decisions on how to manage through COVID impact the charter schools? Were they required to follow your recommendations, or did they do their own thing?
So that's a great question. So the answer is charter schools have their own school boards. So we actually, and it's a very kind of interesting, although we have to be the hurdle that they clear to open, and really that hurdle is not really up to us. It's a state listing. Do they have these 18 steps done? And if they do, whether you like it, not like it, enjoy it, not enjoy it, you need to pass them on to be able to open. So, but once they open, we have very little oversight at all on charters. So whatever they choose to do during COVID times, they choose to do. What we do in our district is we meet with the principals of charter schools 4 times a year. Every message we send out to our parents, we also send it to not charter parents, but to the principals of those schools. So they can certainly choose. We're always here as a resource for them, but there is no ability for us to tell them what to do. But certainly, we see that as a whole, particularly during pandemic times, hurricane times, and even regular times, always want to provide any guidance that what we're doing, we share it with them so that they at least can see, and then they can choose what they'd like to do.
Thank you. How did you go about providing hotspots in poor neighborhoods? Were there still students who did not have access to e-learning?
So that's a great question. So again, Collier County, we always try and be ahead of things, not waiting for things to happen to us. It's always interesting to me in 10 years, how many things we do, and then the laws catch up. For example, if you're a homeless student here, or maybe you end up in our women's shelter from just a hard time at home, or a foster care student, we have always provided transportation. There's a cost to that. We might be busing one child on a smaller vehicle halfway across town, but when kids have those unfortunate dynamic things that can change their lives, the least that we could do is try and allow them to stay where they know the school, know some kids, and now the state laws require that. So we've always tried to be ahead. So a couple years ago, we had a unique opportunity after the hurricane with the UAE folks to say, what would we really like them to help us with? So what we knew is the greatest concentration of a lack of internet is in Immokalee and down in Everglades. So they've worked with us for a couple of years to be able to put some towers up that on our buildings that would extend upwards up to 95% of the kids in Immokalee and Everglades are within an area that our internet can be, as long as they have our device that we connect with. So if you're a parent at home and one of our kids, your personal computer doesn't get to use our internet. So that already limited the number of students that we needed to go after for the hotspots. But again, we have such an incredible technology team, and we're very grateful for them, because any one of them could probably step out and double or triple their income. But because of the family that we try and provide with our own employees, they feel that mission and they know that they're making a difference for kids. So we're really thrilled to have an incredible technology director. And so we actually built our own hotspot. So we were able to not have to rely on a company that was out. We had the things that we could flip those out, and we went to hotspot. So one device could serve 4 kids in a family, not an internal air card that only that one student could use.
Wow. Would you talk about the differences between kindergarten to 2nd grade students and high school students with regard to COVID?
Oh, the greatest difference right off the bat is in elementary, everybody's used to hugging their kids, the kids hugging their legs. But most importantly, in elementary right now, you can see me talking. So if you were trying to learn phonetics or anything, you can see it. All that got lost. So that potential gap is much greater on that K-2 for learning than a high school student. A kindergartner may not be able to work a computer as proficiently as a 9th grader who's kind of grown up doing it. Now they're quick to learn, but as they're learning, they're still losing time. So those gaps can be broader. when the kids weren't around each other for an entire marking period. March to June last year was one whole marking period. So they lost that interaction, and they tend to buddy up. That's cooperative learning. That all those opportunities have been gone this year for K-2, everybody, but it's more impactful that K-2 than the high school. What I worry about in the high school, though, is they're on a timeline, right, of getting to graduate. We don't want that graduation rate slipping either. But as they were at home more, those D's and F's acquire more. Even if you were back in person, it's still not the same. We still have more D's and F's during an in-class than a year ago too. So that means more kids that might not potentially get to that graduation point. To tell you the truth, Elaine and the crew, the SAT was canceled many different times during COVID. So the kids didn't get the same number of opportunities as other kids to be able to get that concordance score, or we didn't have the opportunity to have them take the Florida Standard Test. So they did allow us to then say if the kids had the right number of graduation credits, they didn't get that passing reading or math score, they gave them credit and counted them as a graduate. So what you see though is an inflated graduation rate around the state by 7.4 percentage points. So what'll happen is a district jumped way up, they're gonna go way back once all those kids normally count. But being at 92%, we were already way up there, so our backwards is not that 7-8 percentage points. So staying on it, but that's a group of kids that we have had our eyeballs on. So I just feel bad for them. And then to be honest, this year's seniors, they did not get a normal school as we knew it to be from March on. So almost one half of a year and a full year. So not far off from over half of their high school years were not what we all know.
Very difficult. Another question, what was the rate of COVID in staff and students at CCPS versus other Florida schools?
So what we know is we just get all the information from the health department, but the number that I watched were the number of kids that quarantined, right? Because we were like absolutely neurotic at keeping these kids apart 6 feet when their mask was off, wall to wall as we went around the rooms. We took out extra furniture. We took out the rugs that kindergartner kids sit on so we could space them out as much as we could. So at one point at the beginning in particular, for a district similar size to us, we had quarantined about 810 kids. They were at 8,600 kids. So I don't pass judgment on people. I'm not worried about other people, happy to help out if they ask. But that told me internally, we're doing the right thing, that the same number of kids somewhere else to get it to that number means that I think the safety things that we tried to put in play were more beneficial. So we were pretty happy with what we were doing, but still it's very difficult to call that parent and say, I'm sorry, your student can't come to school for 14 days. It's back down to 10, but still 10. So let me just tell you, I listened to our high school, Barron High School principal at a principal's meeting. He's like, yeah, we're just running all the fourth down. Yeah, this week we're just, we're not doing extra points. I said, John, what the heck? What is that about? He's like, our number one kicker, number two, number three, all quarantined. So the fourth kid is never going to kick it. So it's either play the fourth down or just turn the ball over. So that was hard, very tough. The top basketball player goes out for 2 weeks, you know, and they count on them, you know, and those were very, very, very hard things. So boy, those kids, could I sit in the corner? I have less kids to be around because they even knew if they went home, they had the choice to virtually learn from home. But the problem is they knew that was tough to do. So you know, but at least we offer that again. Our marching bands are huge here. So we bought all the kids the bell covers for the trombone, for the baritone, because the spit would come out of those instruments. So things that people never thought about, you know, the little flute players as they blow across this. So we bought a mask that you slide the flute in to keep less aerosol going out. So it's been exhausting thinking of all the things you could humanly do to make kids have the best year that they could still have.
Right, right. All right. What help has the state and federal government provided to cushion the many additional expenses the district has incurred?
So bottom line, money, exactly what you're referring to. Just by helping to pay for the hand sanitizers, all of the extra masks that we've provided, all of those bell covers for the instruments to make it safer. And you could go through an entire litany of everything that's been done. And now the additional funds to try and fill in the gap of kids that have had loss of learning time. So we have more kids going to summer school. We're able to offer credit recovery right during the day. We don't even have to wait till next year. By January, if you were missing your credit or failed, we can put you in during the day into a lab where the kids use their Edgenuity program to catch back up on a missing credit. So trying to not let 1 minute go by academically for kids, the idea of doing social emotional learning activities for the kids, all those things help make a difference. And we couldn't do that without direct funding, bottom line.
Right. We have 2 more questions for everybody. Are you affected by teacher shortages? And if so, did the pandemic aggravate the situation?
Oh, sure. Every year we have a lack of teachers, a teacher shortage because we have less and less people going to colleges to become educators. Over 50% of every middle and high school teacher does not even come through a college of education. They come as an alternative career. So we have to spend more time and money and effort. So you might know biology because you're an actual chemist or you're a chemistry teacher or whatever. But teaching kids, that is way different than having a degree. So that pedagogy and the methods of instructing students is just very difficult. So it's going to continue to get more difficult. That percentage goes up each year. So it's hard for us when we keep watching colleges and universities close down programs that we have to go out and find alternatively certified teachers. But I think for us, we were pretty thrilled that, because I've listened to other districts where the thousands of teachers would not come back. They just chose to retire, say, I'm done. Lots of issues. I think, you saw just recently in the last 6-7 weeks when some districts were trying to open back up. Well, the longer people stay home, the more they're kind of used to that teaching from home bubble. So we were also thrilled that our push was we were going to open and stay open. So that affected us a little bit less than some. Did it affect us some? Sure. You had people that had underlying health issues. Nobody knew what we know now. But as a whole, we were able to make that all happen.
Right. The last question from another anonymous person. Should teachers be treated with the same level of importance as healthcare workers the next time around?
That answer to me is absolutely yes. Very tough to hear, well, when we weren't considered the emergency personnel yet, the CDC guidelines said they were considered emergency personnel. But our state, it's tricky because we do have an elderly population. So who do you go after? Of course, we as superintendents wrote collectively, the 67 of us, to petition right from the beginning to please vaccinate our teachers, right away, because they were here in August and had to. The order was you had to open your schools face to face and offer the 5-day a week, or you would lose funding. For us, it would have been $31 million. There's no way to function minus $31 million. We didn't care. We were going to open ours because, again, we know our clientele. We know our kids need to be there. But yes, I would still always advocate for teachers because they are frontline, very much frontline.
Right. Well, do you have any closing comments? Because we're at the end of our program today.
Well, the closing comment would be to say thank you for the opportunity to chat with you. Thanks, Elaine, for the hours ahead of time, just setting it up so I could understand who the group is. So it's quite an eclectic group, but with a common focus. That's always great. We appreciate people hearing our story because you become advocates for us. So we thank you for all that this group does, and just thrilled to have the opportunity to share with them.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Patton. It's been an enlightening presentation. We deeply appreciate your leadership in service to the students of the county.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks also to our participants for your time and attention. We hope the presentation informed you and solidified your belief in the power of public schools right here in Collier County. On behalf of the Center for Critical Thinking, thanks to our technical crew, Tony and support, you make this easy for everyone. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.